Hello. My name is Patrick. I'm 34, and I've been married to Megan, 32, for 8 years. Megan and I met in college, and it felt like one of those instant, once-in-a-lifetime connections. She was smart, funny, and had this magnetic energy that pulled everyone in, especially me. We've had a good life together, or at least I thought we did. Sure, we've had our ups and downs like any couple, but we've always managed to work through them. Or at least I thought we had. Lately, though, something's been off, and it's driving me insane. Started a few months ago. Small things I almost didn't notice. Megan began spending a lot more time on her phone. She's always been active on social media, but now it feels different. She's constantly checking her notifications, smiling at her screen, and flipping her phone over whenever I walk into the room. When I asked her about it, she just laughed and said, "It's just work stuff, babe." She works in marketing, so that explanation made sense at first. Until it didn't. The real red flag was last Friday. Megan has a book club she's been part of for years. It's one of her favorite things: wine, snacks, and an excuse to talk about books with her friends. But this time, when she left, she forgot something. Her Kindle. That might not seem like a big deal, but Megan never forgets her Kindle. I joked about it when she got back, asking, "How did book club go without your book?" She froze for a second, just long enough to notice, and then smiled like nothing happened. "It was fine," she said, waving it off. "We barely talked about the book anyway. We were too busy gossiping. That would have been the end of it. Except something about her tone didn't sit right with me. Felt rehearsed. Megan isn't the type to miss details like that. Then there was yesterday. Megan had just come back from the gym, her new obsession, by the way. She's been going 5 days a week for the past couple of months. She seemed upbeat, even cheerful, when she walked in the door. After a quick kiss hello, she disappeared upstairs to take a shower. When she came back down, she was glowing, literally. Her damp hair was pulled into a messy bun, and she was carrying her phone in one hand. "You have to see this," she said, sitting beside me on the couch. She flipped through pictures from her workout, proudly showing me some deadlifts and a selfie with her trainer. I tried to focus, but my mind was elsewhere. Something wasn't sitting right with me about how much time she'd been dedicating to the gym lately. It wasn't like her to be this committed to a routine. And that's when it happened. Her phone buzzed in her hand. She glanced at the screen, and for a split second, her face went blank. It was such a subtle shift that I might have missed it if I wasn't watching her so closely. "What's wrong?" I asked, trying to keep my tone casual. "Nothing," she said quickly, forcing a smile as she tilted the screen away from me. But it was too late. I'd already seen it. The message was from someone named Adam. Asterisk, "I can't wait to see you again." Asterisk. "Who's Adam?" I asked before I could stop myself. Her smile faltered, just for a second. "Oh, he's one of the new trainers at the gym," she said, brushing it off. "We were just talking about my progress. He's really into keeping clients motivated." Her tone was light, casual, like there was nothing to be suspicious about. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Why would her trainer send a message like that? And why didn't she mention him before? The rest of the evening felt like a blur. Megan acted completely normal, chatting about her workout and making plans for the weekend like nothing had happened. But I couldn't stop replaying that moment in my head. I didn't know what to think. Was this just a friendly message blown out of proportion? Or was there something deeper going on? I wanted to believe her. I really did. But something in my gut was telling me that this wasn't just my imagination. Now I'm stuck in this spiral of doubt and paranoia, questioning everything. Am I being ridiculous? Or is there something Megan isn't telling me? Am I making a mountain out of a molehill? Or is this the start of something I don't want to see? I've spent the last couple of days in a fog, replaying that message from Adam over and over in my head. I keep telling myself that Megan has to be telling the truth, that I'm blowing this out of proportion. But deep down, I can't let it go. Something about all of this feels wrong. So, I did something I never thought I'd do. I decided to keep an eye on things, quietly. I don't want to jump to conclusions or accuse Megan of something she didn't do, but I also can't ignore my gut anymore. The first thing I noticed is that Megan's routines have changed more than I realized. She used to love lazy Sunday mornings, drinking coffee in her pajamas while we watched TV. Now she's up early, going for runs or heading to the gym. It's great that she's focused on her fitness, but it feels like she's avoiding me. She's also been dressing differently, nothing too extreme, but enough for me to notice. She used to prefer casual clothes for errands or hanging out at home, but now she's wearing fitted leggings and makeup just to grab groceries. When I joked about it, she laughed it off, saying, "I just feel better when I look put together." At first, I thought I was being paranoid. There's nothing wrong with wanting to look nice, right? But then I started noticing other things. She's been more protective of her phone than usual. Megan used to leave it lying around without a care, but now it's either in her hand or tucked into her pocket. She even started taking it to the bathroom with her. And then there are the little lies. They're subtle, so subtle that I might have missed them if I wasn't paying attention. Last week, she said she was stuck in traffic on her way home, but when I checked the traffic map out of curiosity, there wasn't a single delay on her route. Another time, she mentioned grabbing lunch with a coworker, but when I asked her about it later, she couldn't remember what they talked about. It's like there's this invisible thread unraveling, and I can't figure out where it leads. I hate to admit this, but I started keeping a closer eye on her phone. I didn't snoop, not exactly, but I started glancing at her notifications when her phone buzzed. For a few days, everything seemed normal. Texts from her sister, work emails, and the occasional Instagram alert. I almost convinced myself that I'd imagined the message from Adam. But then, on Wednesday, she got another one. This time, I couldn't see the full text, just his name. Adam. That's when I decided to take screenshots. I waited until Megan was in the shower and quickly scrolled through her messages. I didn't open anything. I didn't want her to notice, but I snapped a few pictures of her conversation list. Adam's name was near the top. When I looked closer, something weird caught my eye. The message preview wasn't in English. It looked like French, or maybe Spanish. Megan doesn't speak either of those languages, and I've never heard her mention Adam as someone who might. I couldn't make sense of it. Was it some kind of code? A joke? Or was I just grasping at straws? Things took a turn on Friday. Megan said she was going out with friends after work. Nothing unusual, since she's part of a big group of college girlfriends. But something about her tone set me on edge. She seemed too casual. Normally, she'd gush about what they were planning to do, but this time, she was vague. So I did something I'm not proud of. I told her I had work to catch up on and couldn't make dinner plans, but really, I stayed home and waited. When she left, I followed her. I felt like a complete idiot. Who does this? Who follows their own wife like some kind of amateur detective? But the pit in my stomach wouldn't go away, and I had to know where she was going. Her car took a turn away from her usual hangout spots, heading downtown. I trailed at a safe distance, keeping my headlights low. Finally, she parked near a small cafe. For a moment, I told myself that maybe she was meeting her friends there. Maybe this was all in my head. But then, she walked inside and sat down at a corner table, alone. Not 5 minutes later, a man walked in. He was tall, with dark hair and a confident stride. He looked younger than I expected, maybe late 20s. He spotted Megan immediately and smiled. She smiled back. I froze in my car, watching them through the cafe window. They didn't hug or touch, but the way they leaned in close to talk, it felt intimate. Too intimate. I was about to lose it. My hands were gripping the steering wheel so tightly that my knuckles turned white. But before I could storm inside, Megan stood up and walked out. She got back in her car and drove off like nothing had happened. I was stunned. She wasn't there for more than 20 minutes. I decided to stay and watch the guy she'd met. He didn't leave right away. Instead, he pulled out his phone and started typing. I couldn't see the screen, but I knew I knew he was texting her. I was about to drive home when a waitress brought something to his table. It looked like a stack of papers. He nodded, thanked her, and flipped through them. From where I was parked, it looked like contracts? Or maybe brochures. My mind was racing. Was he her trainer, like she'd said? Maybe this was business-related, and I just imagined all the tension between them. Or maybe it was something else entirely, something I couldn't explain yet. When I got home, Megan was already there, curled up on the couch in her pajamas like she'd been there all night. She smiled when I walked in, asking how my work went. I stared at her, trying to read her expression. She looked so normal, so familiar, that I almost felt guilty for doubting her. But then her phone buzzed, and she flipped it over before I could see the screen. I'm losing my mind. Was that meeting innocent, or was it something more? And why does it feel like every answer I find just leads to more questions? I thought following Megan and seeing her meet Adam would give me some clarity, but it's only made everything more confusing. The truth feels so close, but every time I reach for it, it slips further away. After a weekend of sleepless nights and overthinking, I decided I couldn't take it anymore. I had to confront Megan. I couldn't live like this, tiptoeing around my own wife, wondering what was real and what wasn't. But I also knew I had to play it carefully. If I came on too strong, she'd either shut down or turn it around on me. So I set the stage. It was Sunday evening, and Megan was in the kitchen making dinner. She was humming along to the radio, completely at ease, like nothing in the world was wrong. Meanwhile, my heart was pounding so hard I could barely hear the music. I walked in, leaned against the counter, and tried to sound casual. "Hey, can we talk for a second?" She glanced up from chopping vegetables. "Of course. What's up?" I hesitated, trying to find the right words. "I've been noticing some things lately, things that don't add up." Her smile faltered for just a moment before she recovered. "What do you mean?" I took a deep breath. "You've been spending a lot of time at the gym. You've been more protective of your phone. And then there was the other night when you said you were meeting friends, but I know you went to that cafe." She froze mid-chop, the knife hovering over the cutting board. Her eyes darted to me, and I saw something flicker in them. Fear? Anger? Couldn't tell. Then she set the knife down carefully and turned to face me. "You followed me?" Her voice was quiet but sharp, like the calm before a storm. "I had to, Megan," I said, trying to keep my tone steady. "I've been feeling like something's off, and I need to know what's going on." She crossed her arms, her expression shifting from shock to indignation. "I can't believe you don't trust me. After everything we've been through, you think I'm sneaking around behind your back? That's really low, Patrick." Her reaction was almost convincing. Almost. "Then explain Adam," I said. "Explain why you're meeting him at a cafe and why he's texting you things like, 'I can't wait to see you again.'" For a moment, she looked like she was scrambling for an answer. Then her face softened, and she let out a frustrated laugh. "Patrick, Adam is my trainer. We've been working on a project together. Something I was going to surprise you with." "A project?" I asked, narrowing my eyes. "Yes," she said, her tone growing defensive. "Adam is helping me organize a fitness retreat for my team at work. I wanted it to be a surprise because I thought you'd be proud of me for taking on something like this. But instead, you're accusing me of cheating." I didn't know what to say. Her explanation wasn't impossible, and the papers I'd seen at the cafe could have been related to the retreat. But something still felt off. "I'm not accusing you of anything," I said carefully. "I'm just asking for the truth. I just gave it to you," she snapped. Her voice cracked slightly, and I couldn't tell if it was from anger or something else. "God, Patrick, do you have any idea how humiliating this is? To have my own husband spying on me?" I wanted to believe her. I wanted to drop the whole thing and move on. But then she said something that stopped me cold. "Maybe if you spent more time focusing on your own life instead of obsessing over mine, we wouldn't be having this conversation." It wasn't just the words. It was the way she said them. There was a bite to her tone, like she was trying to shift the blame onto me. And for the first time, I wondered if she wasn't just lying, but manipulating me. That night, I couldn't sleep. Megan went to bed early, saying she was too drained to deal with this right now, but I stayed up, replaying the conversation in my head. Something about her story didn't sit right with me. If this retreat was such a big deal, why hadn't she mentioned it before? And why did Adam's messages feel so personal? I decided I needed proof, something concrete. So I set a trap. The next day, I waited until Megan left for the gym and then sent her a text. Asterisk, hey, I've been thinking about what you said, and I want to trust you. Can we talk more about the retreat tonight? I'd love to hear all the details. Asterisk. She replied almost immediately. Asterisk, of course, babe. I'll fill you in tonight. I love you. It was the perfect setup. If she was telling the truth, she'd have no problem sharing everything. But if she was lying, well, she'd have to scramble to come up with a story. That evening, I casually brought it up over dinner. So, tell me more about this retreat, I said, trying to sound genuinely interested. Megan hesitated for just a second before launching into a long-winded explanation about team-building exercises, yoga sessions, and keynote speakers. It all sounded impressive, but something about the way she spoke felt rehearsed, like she was reciting a script. When I asked if she had any materials I could look at, she said they were still in the planning stages and that Adam was handling most of the logistics. That was when I decided to push a little harder. Do you mind if I come with you to the next meeting? It sounds like something I'd be interested in. Her reaction was instantaneous. Oh no, you don't need to do that, she said quickly, waving her hand. It's just boring planning stuff. You'd hate it. The more she talked, the more tangled her story became. She started contradicting herself, saying 1 minute that the retreat was still months away, and the next that it was coming up soon. By the end of the conversation, I was more convinced than ever that she was hiding something. Here's the thing that's really messing with my head. What if this isn't just about an affair? What if there's something else going on? Megan's been acting so secretive, and the way she deflected during our argument made me feel like I'm missing a bigger piece of the puzzle. Is it possible she's hiding something more than Adam? Or am I just letting my paranoia spiral out of control? Last week, I set a trap to test her story about this supposed fitness retreat she's organizing with Adam. Her evasive answers left me with more questions than ever. I couldn't keep circling the drain, so I decided to take matters into my own hands. I wasn't going to confront Megan again. Not yet. This time, I went straight to the source. I decided to confront Adam. I wasn't sure how to find him at first. I didn't have his last name, and Megan's phone wasn't exactly accessible. But I remembered the cafe where I'd seen them together. So, the next day, I parked outside the cafe in the late afternoon, hoping he'd show up. Felt like an eternity, but finally, around 4 p.m., there he was. The same tall, dark-haired guy from before, walking in with a confident stride. I waited until he ordered his coffee and sat down before I made my move. Walking up to him, I felt like my entire body was on fire. My heart was pounding, and I half expected him to recognize me, or worse, laugh in my face. Instead, he looked up, surprised, as I stopped at his table. Adam, right? I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He frowned slightly, then nodded. Yeah, do I know you? I took a deep breath and sat down across from him without asking. My name's Patrick. I'm Megan's husband. The color drained from his face. For a moment, he just stared at me, blinking like he'd misheard. Then he leaned back, shaking his head. Wait, what? She's married? His reaction caught me off guard. I come here expecting someone smug, someone complicit in her lies. But Adam looked completely stunned. Angry, even. Yes, we've been married for 8 years, I said, my voice hard. And from what I've seen, you've been spending a lot of time with my wife lately. Adam ran a hand through his hair, looking genuinely horrified. She told me you were separated. that you were this abusive, work-obsessed guy who refused to sign the divorce papers. Felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. I stared at him, trying to process his words. She said what? That you made her life hell? Adam continued, his voice rising with anger. That you didn't love her anymore and she was just trying to move on. Jesus. I even felt bad for her. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Megan wasn't just lying to me. She was fabricating an entire reality. I had no idea, Adam said, his voice shaking slightly. If I'd known the truth, I never would have gotten involved with her. I swear. The anger in Adam's voice sounded real. And as much as I hated the idea of teaming up with the man my wife was seeing behind my back, I realized he might be the only person who could help me figure out what was going on. Listen, I said, lowering my voice. If you really didn't know, then maybe we can help each other. Megan's been lying to both of us, and I need to know the full story. Adam hesitated for a moment, then nodded. Yeah, okay, let's do it. Over the next hour, we compared notes. Adam showed me the messages Megan had sent him. Texts full of sweet nothings, promises of a future together, and excuses for why she couldn't introduce him to her friends. Yet, it was sickening. But the worst part? He showed me a receipt for an expensive watch she'd bought him for his birthday. It had been delivered directly to his apartment, paid for with a joint bank account that Megan and I shared. She was using our money to bankroll her fantasy life with Adam. She never said where the money was coming from, Adam said, looking genuinely disgusted. I thought it was from her job. That wasn't all. Adam told me about gifts she'd bought for herself. Designer clothes, jewelry, even a weekend spa getaway. All paid for out of the same account. It hit me like a ton of bricks. Megan wasn't just cheating on me. She was leading a double life, using me as her safety net while she indulged in this twisted fantasy with Adam. That night, I confronted Megan with everything. I started with the money, showing her the bank statements. Her face paled, but she recovered quickly, slipping into defense mode. I can explain, she said, her voice trembling. It's not what you think. Then what is it, Megan? I shot back. You've been lying to me for months. You told Adam we were separated. You told him I was abusive, and you've been stealing our money to fund this. Whatever this is, her eyes filled with tears, and for a moment, I thought she might finally come clean. But instead, she turned the tables on me. You think I wanted this? She yelled. You've been so checked out of our marriage for years, Patrick. All you care about is work and paying bills. You never made me feel loved or appreciated. I needed someone to talk to. Someone who actually saw me. Her words stung, but I wasn't buying it. So your solution was to lie? To cheat? To drain our bank account? I deserve to be happy. She shot back, her voice rising. If you'd been the husband I needed, none of this would have happened. Before I could respond, the front door opened, and in walked Adam. Megan's eyes widened in shock. What are you doing here? Adam held up his phone, his face hard. I came to get answers, Megan. You've been lying to me this whole time. Did you really think you could keep this going forever? Megan's composure cracked. Adam, you don't understand. Oh, I understand perfectly, he interrupted. You used me. You used him. And now you're caught. With both of us confronting her, Megan finally broke down. She admitted to everything, the lies, the affair, the stolen money. But instead of apologizing, she doubled down, accusing both of us of betraying her. You're both pathetic, she spat. Neither of you deserves me. And with that, she stormed out, slamming the door behind her. Megan hasn't come home, and honestly, I don't know if I want her to. Adam and I exchanged a brief, awkward handshake before he left, promising to forward me anything else he found that could help. Now I'm left to pick up the pieces of my life. Megan's lies have destroyed everything I thought I knew about my marriage. And the worst part? I don't even know where to start. My life feels like it's been turned inside out, and the emotional aftermath is a roller coaster I wasn't prepared for. I thought finding out the truth would bring me closure, but it's only opened more wounds. For the first few days after Megan stormed out, I was numb. I replayed our argument over and over in my head, trying to pinpoint where things had gone so horribly wrong. Was it my fault? Did I neglect her? Was I really so oblivious that I missed all the signs? But the more I thought about it, the angrier I became. Megan hadn't just cheated on me. She'd rewritten the narrative of our entire relationship. She'd painted me as some controlling, abusive husband to justify her actions, and the sheer audacity of it made my blood boil. Every time I thought I couldn't feel worse, I discovered something new. Like the day I checked our joint savings account and realized just how much money she'd siphoned off. Thousands of dollars gone. Spent on gifts for Adam, luxury spa trips, and who knows what else. And then there were the moments of grief. Grief for the woman I thought I'd married, for the life we'd built together, for the trust that had been so carelessly destroyed. I started questioning everything. Had she ever loved me? Was our marriage ever real? Or was I just a convenient stepping stone for her to live out her fantasies? Amid all this chaos, the most unexpected thing happened. Adam and I became friends. It started with a few awkward texts. He sent me a screenshot of an old message Megan had sent him, hoping it might help me piece together the timeline of her lies. I thanked him and offered to grab coffee sometime, figuring we could both use someone to talk to. To my surprise, we hit it off. Adam is nothing like the person I imagined when I first found out about him. He's not a fitness trainer, he's a freelance graphic designer. Megan lied about that, too. Over the next few weeks, we started meeting regularly. At first, we bonded over our shared betrayal, but as time went on, our conversations shifted to other things. Our careers, hobbies, dreams. One day, Adam mentioned that he was struggling to keep up with the business side of freelancing. He's incredibly talented, but bookkeeping, client outreach, and marketing weren't his strengths. That's when I had an idea. I'm pretty tech-savvy, and I've always been good at organizing and managing projects. I offered to help Adam streamline his business. What started as a casual collaboration quickly snowballed into something bigger. Within a few months, we decided to officially partner up and launch a design and marketing agency. Working with Adam gave me a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't just going through the motions. I was building something meaningful. Our agency took off faster than we expected, and the success gave me a newfound confidence. Adam also became my wingman in another way, dating. I was hesitant at first. Getting back out there felt daunting, and I wasn't sure I was ready. But Adam pushed me to step outside my comfort zone, insisting that I deserved to be happy. That's how I ended up at a local art exhibition one Friday night. I was completely out of my element, wandering through the gallery with a glass of wine, when I met Olivia. She was the curator, and we struck up a conversation about the sci-fi themes in one of the pieces. Before I knew it, we were laughing and geeking out over our favorite books and movies. Olivia is kind, witty, and refreshingly honest. We've been seeing each other for a few months now, and for the first time in a long time, I feel hopeful about the future. Just as my life was starting to feel normal again, Megan reappeared. She showed up at my apartment unannounced, looking disheveled and desperate. She'd been fired from her job for embezzlement, not surprising, given what she'd done to our savings, and she was drowning in debt. "I've changed, Patrick," she said, her voice trembling. "I made mistakes, but I'm ready to fix things. We can rebuild our marriage. Please, give me another chance." For a split second, I hesitated. Part of me wanted to believe her, to cling to the idea that the woman I'd loved was still in there somewhere. But then I remembered the lies, the manipulation, the months of betrayal. "No, Megan," I said firmly. "You burned that bridge. I'm moving on, and you need to do the same." She didn't take it well. When I refused to let her back into my life, she turned to Adam. She showed up at his studio, spinning the same sob story and begging for forgiveness. Adam didn't mince words. "I'd rather date a cactus," he said, his voice dripping with disgust. Megan's mask slipped completely after that. She went from begging to threatening, vowing to destroy everything we'd built together. Now, Megan is a storm cloud looming over my new life. She's been making calls to potential clients, spreading rumors about our agency, and posting cryptic messages on social media designed to damage our reputations. But here's the thing. I'm not scared of her anymore. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm in control of my own life. I've set boundaries, built something I'm proud of, and surrounded myself with people who genuinely care about me. Megan can try to tear me down, but I won't let her win. After Megan's dramatic return and subsequent threats to destroy my new business, I had to draw a line in the sand. She didn't just want to reconcile. She wanted to control me again. She couldn't stand the fact that I'd moved on, built something successful, and refused to let her rewrite our history. Her attempts to sabotage the agency became relentless. She called clients, claiming Adam and I were scammers. She left bad reviews under fake names. She even showed up at one of our networking events, causing a scene that left everyone staring at me like I was part of some messy reality show. It was exhausting, but more than that, it was sad. This wasn't the woman I'd fallen in love with all those years ago. That woman had been ambitious, kind, and full of life. Whatever had happened along the way, whether it was my failure, hers, or something else entirely, she'd become someone unrecognizable, someone toxic. That night, I sat down and wrote a letter to myself. It wasn't something I planned to share with anyone. It was just for me. In it, I listed all the ways Megan had hurt me, all the ways I'd felt small and insignificant in our marriage, and all the ways I'd let myself down by staying silent. When I was done, I reread the letter and felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Clarity. I knew what I had to do. The next morning, I met with a lawyer and started the process of filing for divorce. It wasn't easy. Even after everything Megan had done, there was still a part of me that mourned the life we'd built together. I remembered the early days of our relationship, how we'd laugh until our stomachs hurt, how we'd dream about our future together. It was hard to accept that those moments were gone for good. But as my lawyer walked me through the paperwork, a strange sense of peace washed over me. This wasn't just the end of my marriage. It was the beginning of a new chapter in my life. A chapter where I could finally be honest with myself, free from the weight of Megan's lies and manipulation. Megan, of course, didn't take the news well. She showed up at my apartment the day she was served, screaming that I was ruining her life and accusing me of giving up on our marriage. I stayed calm, repeating the same thing over and over. This is what's best for both of us. Eventually, she left, but not before warning me that she wasn't finished. The months that followed were a whirlwind. The divorce proceedings were messy, to say the least. Megan fought tooth and nail to hold on to everything she could, even trying to claim half of the agency Adam and I had built. Thankfully, the financial evidence Adam and I had collected, combined with Megan's firing for embezzlement, worked in my favor. In the end, the court ruled that she wasn't entitled to any part of the business. For the first time in years, I felt like I could breathe again. One of the hardest parts of this process has been letting go of the unsolved mysteries surrounding Megan. Even now, I find myself wondering, how long had she been lying to me? Was there ever a moment in our marriage where she truly loved me? Or was it all an illusion? And then there's the lingering threat of her vengeance. Megan is nothing if not resourceful, and part of me knows she won't disappear quietly. But I've decided not to let that fear control me. I can't keep living in the shadow of her chaos. Adam has been a constant source of support through all of this. Our business is thriving, and working together has given me a sense of purpose I didn't realize I was missing. He's become one of my closest friends, a brother I didn't know I needed. And then there's Olivia. We've been seeing each other for a few months now, and things are going really well. She knows about my past with Megan, but she's never once judged me for it. Instead, She's helped me focus on the future, on who I want to be and what I want out of life. Last weekend, Olivia invited me to another art exhibition she was curating. As I stood there, watching her light up while she talked about the pieces she'd chosen, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time: hope. But as I stand here, looking out at the horizon, I can't help but feel like Megan's story isn't over. I caught wind that she's moved out of state, but she left behind a trail of burned bridges. I've heard whispers from mutual acquaintances that she's trying to start over, using a new name and a new story to gain sympathy from anyone who'll listen. There's also the nagging mystery of the money she took. While I've accounted for most of it, there's a significant chunk that's still unaccounted for. Did she stash it somewhere? Did she use it to pay off debts I don't know about? Or is she holding onto it as part of some twisted plan to make a comeback? If there's one thing I've learned from all of this, it's that life doesn't always give you clean endings. Sometimes you just have to accept the messiness and move forward anyway. So that's what I'm doing. For the first time in years, I feel like I'm in control of my own life. I've set boundaries, found purpose, and surrounded myself with people who genuinely care about me. Megan can keep her secrets. She can keep her lies. I'm done chasing the truth. It's been a long, painful journey, but also one that's taught me more than I ever thought possible. Looking back, it's hard to believe how far I've come. From the confusion and heartbreak of discovering Megan's betrayal to the clarity and strength I feel today. If my story can help even one person in a similar situation, then it's worth sharing these final thoughts. Trust is fragile and essential. I used to think trust was something you built once and then relied on forever. But I've learned that trust is more like a garden. It needs constant care and attention. Megan's betrayal didn't happen overnight. It was a series of small lies and neglect that grew into something destructive. Looking back, I realize I ignored a lot of red flags because I didn't want to admit that our foundation was crumbling. People aren't always who you think they are. One of the hardest truths I've had to accept is that Megan wasn't the person I thought she was, or maybe she changed into someone I didn't recognize. Either way, holding on to the version of her I'd loved only kept me stuck. It's painful to let go of someone you once saw as your future, but sometimes it's the only way to make room for the life you truly deserve. If you'd told me a year ago that I'd be running a successful business, building a new relationship, and reclaiming my independence, I wouldn't have believed you. I felt broken when this all started, but piece by piece, I rebuilt myself. It's not easy. It takes time, patience, and a lot of uncomfortable self-reflection, but it's possible. Never lose yourself in someone else. I realize how much of myself I gave up in my marriage. I thought being a good husband meant putting Megan's needs first, even when it meant sacrificing my own happiness and identity. But relationships should be about partnership, not self-erasure. If someone makes you feel like you're not enough on your own, that's a sign to reevaluate. Listen to your gut. If something feels off, don't dismiss it. Trust your instincts, but also gather evidence before jumping to conclusions. Communicate before it's too late. Looking back, I wish I'd addressed my concerns with Megan earlier, before the lies piled up. Even if it wouldn't have saved our marriage, it might have brought clarity sooner. Don't blame yourself. It's easy to get caught up in what you could have done differently, but someone else's betrayal is their choice, not a reflection of your worth. Build a support system, whether it's friends, family, or even a community like this one. Having people to lean on makes all the difference. Focus on healing, not revenge. It's tempting to fantasize about getting back at someone who's hurt you, but that energy is better spent building a life you're proud of. Trust me, it's the ultimate victory. One of the biggest lessons I've learned is that endings aren't failures, they're beginnings in disguise. My marriage didn't work out, but it taught me what I want and don't want in a relationship. It also pushed me to grow in ways I never would have if things had stayed comfortable. Today, I'm grateful for the people who've walked into my life since then, like Adam, who's become not just a business partner but a close friend, and Olivia, who's shown me that love can be honest, kind, and simple. As for Megan, I don't know where she is now, and I don't plan to find out. I've let go of the anger and the need for answers. Some mysteries are better left unsolved. But I'll leave you with a thought that keeps circling back to me. We often think betrayal is the breaking of trust. But what if it's the breaking of illusions? And what if, in that shattering, we finally see the truth, not just about others, but about ourselves? Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it's brought you some insight or comfort. And if you're going through your own storm, just remember, you're stronger than you think. I think I did everything right. What do you think about this? Let me know in the comments below this video. Bye.